bring sense to this memorial. We know Yitz to be someone who's been at the center of so many important revolutions in Jewish thought and in Jewish communal life, and through an individual by individual commitment to human dignity is unmatched. So much of his thinking about the aftermath of the Holocaust has impacted so many of us, and I consider myself individually a student of his thinking and his writing and his commitment to a sensitive Jewish way and really to kavod habriot, to human dignity. And that's why we asked him to share remarks tonight. So for me, it's a personal honor, and I know for each of us, a sense of the rightness of this moment to invite Rabbi Irving Greenberg, Rabbi Yitz, forward to speak.
Gathered tonight, Kristallnacht, the anniversary of November 9th, and is of course one of the two primary days in which the Jewish people and its friends and allies remember the Shoah. And because it is Kristallnacht, I will speak specifically about Kristallnacht and what its effects and lessons were. It was, of course, a nationwide pogrom in Germany, the first since the Middle Ages, and of course, as one scholar said, Kristallnacht was the first distinctive modern years. There was a steady process of excluding the Jews, degrading the Jews, that was set in motion from 1933 on. In particular, what was called the Aryanization of Jewish property, in which Jews under pressure were driven, first they were driven out of jobs, out of professions, out of civil service, out of schools, and the city was going too slowly. In April 1938, starting in April 1938, a series of decrees by which they could identify, first detect and identify, and then sequester or force Jews to sell their property, of course, at ruinous prices. A series of decrees were passed because they were trying to speed up and finish the process. On October 14th, less than a month before, ministers at the Air Ministry, which was led by Göring, who was the number 2 person to Hitler. And Göring, among other things, said in that meeting, and I'm quoting now for the minutes, the Jewish question must now be settled by every available means, for they must be removed from the economy. That was the marching orders. But they didn't yet have the occasion or the third secretary of the German embassy in Paris. What happened very simply was that a young man named Herschel Greenspan, a Polish Jew, a man of a disturbed background and character, and that's certainly part of it. But in this case, he was particularly upset and disturbed by the fact that his parents, Poles by background, had moved to Germany, lived there. But in those months, the German government decided to expel all Jews from Poland, and thousands were expelled out of Germany. When the Polish government was not yet ready to accept them, they were pushed into a kind of a no man's land between the two countries, and there they were trapped. You've seen those scenes of the refugee camps in Africa, trapped between the warring forces, unable to go anywhere. His parents were in this situation. Greenspan, who was frantic and disturbed by this, went into the German embassy in Paris on November 7th, and there had an interview or meeting with Ernest von Rath, and he shot him and killed him. This was Hitler at a meeting of the leadership of the Nazi Party, which was celebrating the 1923 putsch. That, as an outcast, underground almost, Hitler and the Nazi Party had tried a putsch in Bavaria in 1923, which failed, in fact, after that he was put in jail. But they were celebrating it, and now in power, of course. And when the news arrived, he understood this was his opportunity to strike. And so Hitler spoke to Goebbels right there at the conference. One of the comments overheard and later reported was, he said to him, the SA, the stormtroopers should be allowed to have a fling. He left the room, and Goebbels got up and announced that there's going to be a spontaneous demonstration against the Jews throughout Germany, that the party should enable and make possible whatever was necessary. And of course, they sent a message out to all branches of the party everywhere. The time had come to strike. On November 9th, the full fury was unleashed. The simple thing was that every synagogue in Germany and Austria, which had been taken over by Germany, every synagogue in Germany was burned to the ground or demolished in some form or fashion. That is to say, those synagogue buildings which were next to or attached to other buildings which could not be burnt down because they might damage and destroy the other buildings, they were simply looted and demolished inside. The others were burned down. In addition to every synagogue in Germany and Austria being burned down, an all-out attack on Jewish businesses. That was the point, to get the Jews out of the economy. 500 Jewish businesses in Germany which were insured and were demolished were to be responsible for by the insurance companies. That's how we know the number. But of course, there may have been other businesses that did not have insurance coverage. Speed up the process of eliminating the Jews from the economy of Germany. But there were three other main goals that the Nazis had in mind, and which they reflected upon afterward when they totaled up what happened and what to do next. I would say probably the primary goal, beyond the elimination from the economy, was to humiliate and degrade the Jews, so to put them outside the circle of humanity for which their fellow German citizens might feel responsible. In Kristallnacht was the depersonalization of the Jew. The Jew was forced out of social life, and therefore he could be fit into the stereotype of propaganda, which intensified the campaign against Jewry. And those who were lost, it's about learning the lessons of those memories. We're told in the Torah to remember that we were slaves in Egypt, so that we will free the slaves and let them go after 6 or 7 years. The Torah tells the story, and not hesitate, because we remember what it was like. That we'll treat the outsider of the ger as an equal person, and with respect and concern, because we remember the taste of being outsiders. Well, what is the primary lesson of Kristallnacht that we try to remember? And what is the primary lesson? I would say more than anything else, it is the question of the bystanders. It is the question of the rest of the population. A major study was done about 20 years ago by a woman named Helen Fine, who asked a brilliant, simple, elemental question. What is the key factor in Jewish survival or non-survival during the Holocaust? That's not an abstract question. If you look at the record, in Poland, in Lithuania, 95% of the Jews died. We all know the famous case of Denmark, in which 99% of the Jews were saved. And there's a wide range in different countries. How do we account for this tremendous range of survival rates? So here again, the difference is not in Nazi behavior. In every country where they took over, they set about systematically degrading and killing the Jews. The difference is not in Jewish behavior. The choice of which way to die, it made no difference in the outcome. The crucial factor in Jewish survival or non-survival is the attitude and the behavior of the bystanders. And that indeed is what the Nazis understood when they made this test of Kristallnacht. Where the Jews were isolated, where the Jews were surrounded by a wall of rejection. I think as I was tired, he was tired. It was a very long, late night, and we were walking back together. And I said to him, people tell me you have no Jewish voters. And as far as I can tell, they're not even Jewish givers. I said, how come you're so totally passionately committed to this thing? He looks at me, he said, you know something? He said, I feel the American people don't understand the level of evil in this world. How far it can go. How far it can go. They're just naive, idealistic Americans, they don't take those threats seriously. And on top of that, he said, I keep asking myself, and if the evil came here, what would people do? He said, to me, this is a matter of life and death.